Hey guys, welcome back to the segment two of episode 35 with Trish Wolf here in the Wolf Pack. Last night we ended this kind of talking an intro into the NAR situation here in the real estate world. So we're going to jump right in, not waste any time. So, what we were talking about last night, it basically is I said this verbatim, so I'll say it again. Probably one of the biggest shakeups in the real estate history as far as our country goes, right? Big shakeups, a lot of changes. The big concern here is that it's kind of being swept under the rug, where the average home owner slash home looker to buy, like myself and you guys who are out there looking to purchase a new home or your first home, you don't really have too much information about that because of kind of the pushing it under the rug, as I said. So I'm very thankful that Trish is here, that she's going to be able to kind of walk us through exactly what the hell is going on and some things you can do to make sure that not only you're protected, but as well as you're doing best practices. So, one, you're not getting taken advantage of, whether you're the buyer or the seller. Or if you're an actual agent as well and you're listening to this, let's say you're another agent out there, now you can kind of have an expert opinion as well on how you can protect yourself and your business. So, Trish, for a quick excuse me, a minute or two, give a recap on what happened.
Yeah, so the NAR settlement, NAR is the National Association of Realtors. NAR was sued essentially by the sellers, home sellers of the past. They were sued under the pretext that basically they were tricked into paying a 6% commission, which was divided half and half, for rough numbers. And these are all rough numbers. Don't hold me to these numbers. I always have to throw that disclaimer out there because this whole lawsuit was based in antitrust violation. So for me to discuss numbers is a violation. So when I say numbers, they are hypothetical. So hypothetically, sellers are paying, say, the 6% commission. Half of that goes to the selling agent, half of that goes to the buyer's agent. And in Missouri, those listing agreements spell that out. I don't know what they look like around the country, but apparently, either they aren't in the contract or sellers are signing contracts without reading them. But either way, they feel that they were tricked into, or it was not disclosed to them that in that 6% commission, they were paying 3% out to a buyer's agent. Now, that's been standard practice since the beginning of the invention of real estate as a career or as selling houses goes. That's always been the way ever since the beginning of time. So the lawsuit essentially is putting this out in the forefront saying, hey, sellers no longer want to pay that buyer's agent's commission. This should not be the standard operating practice. We want to keep our money in our pockets. Now, the reason that lawyers got involved and the government got involved, they were like, yes, realtors make way too much money. And if we can get the sellers to not have to pay 6% in commission, that will make home prices drop, and then more people can afford to buy houses. That sounds hypothetically wonderful, but that is not the way of the world. Sellers are not going to lower the price of their house just because they're not paying out commission. They're going to keep the price the same. They're just not going to pay out as much commission. So the buyers do not win in any way, shape, or form. I don't know anytime the government gets involved in anything, it's a cluster. So they should have just left well enough alone. But that's basically it. Sellers now are under the assumption that they don't need to, or don't have to, or cannot. For whatever reason, and whatever news channel they listen to, they're under the assumption that they no longer have to pay commission, or especially they don't have to pay the buyer's agent's commission. And so it creates a lot of questions and a lot of problems potentially for buyers. And this goes into effect, guys, July 1st in St. Louis. So that's coming in 3 weeks. So there we are. Does that make sense?
No,
Did I
no,
explain it?
the scary part is that obviously I'm not a realtor, but like I've been in the real estate game for an investing portion a long time. And the fact that I've been doing this for some years and that still doesn't make good sense to me, like full sense, that tells me
Mhm.
that the average consumer is screwed, right? Like that, this makes absolutely a different language to them. So I guess it doesn't make sense. I get what you're saying, and that makes sense. However, the way you explain it makes perfect sense. However, it doesn't make sense why the hell they would do this. So like that's
Right.
the problem.
Right.
Right,
What
it's the
they
buyers.
their ultimate goal, and the lead agent on this case, his ultimate goal, and he was on a news interview and he said that he would like the realtors as a career to be abolished. I don't know, maybe he wants lawyers like in California. I believe you have to hire a lawyer to do a real estate deal in California.
Oh
And
boy.
because he's a lawyer, maybe he just wants lawyers to be involved in real estate. But here's the problem. So So it's all about quote unquote transparency, but there's so many loopholes. There's so it's so much not so much is not transparent in the new rules when they go into effect, and we can break them down rule by rule. But the whole point, all the contracts that sellers and buyers will be signing will be very transparent of, hey, this is how much commission I'm paying to my realtor. Now, the problem is that if a seller is not going to pay the buyer's agent, then the buyer is going to have to pay their own realtor. So that's what boils down in the new law that I think is going to happen quite a bit, is that these sellers are going to be greedy. They're not going to just hand over commission now that they think, oh, I don't have to, you know. Um, but here's the silly part about the whole thing. Commission has always been negotiable. Always. A seller never has been held to the fire like, you've got to pay 6%. It's always been negotiable. They've never had to pay a buyer's agent. They could pay a buyer's agent whatever they choose. It's just been very standard practice to pay a buyer's agent, 2.5, 2.7%. But now, because it's been brought to light so heavily, now the sellers are rethinking it, thinking, wait a minute, you mean we did have a choice? Well, if I have a choice, then I'm going to pay zero. Of course, I'm going to pay zero. Like, why would you choose to just give away your money? And that just is going to cause a very big problem with buyers who can't afford to pay a realtor, who, like, as in the VA program, they're not allowed to pay a realtor. Um, there's just a lot of room for a lot of issues.
Trish, I have a question. As a so say a potential buyer, they're on their side of the contract. They say, okay, we are, going to pay this much in percentage. And then, you go to the seller, they're about to sell their house. And then, like you said, that they could potentially not pay it. What happens to that buyer's contract when they locked in that thing? Are they automatically have to renegotiate the contract on that aspect, or does it void it? And it just seems like a lot of legality, right?
Yeah, it opens everybody up to a lot of risk and liability and financial obligation because so one of the new rules, and I'll try to break it down because it's a huge chunk. This thing was like a 600-page legal form that came down. And when I was reading the NAR website, there are 170 some odd, and that could be a wrong number, it might be more, but I got through 170 of the new rules. That's a lot of new rules. So, one of the new rules is that any buyer, any buyer, even if you click the Zillow button and you want to go look at a house this afternoon, you have to have a buyer's agreement signed with with a realtor before that realtor can open the door for you. That's new. We used to be able to take people on showings, and it was up to us how, deep we wanted to get into the paperwork. Me personally, I would show people houses, no problem at all. That was fine. And then when we went to write an offer, we would do the buyer's agency agreement paperwork. And that's how you get paid. That allows me to represent them as their realtor. It allows me to get paid commission from that seller. And I do the paperwork when we write an offer. Now that paperwork is going to have to be signed before I can even unlock a door. Now, it can be a watered down version of a buyer's agreement, but the new buyer's agent agreement is going to be like 7 pages long. It used to be 4 pages. It's now going to be 7 pages long. That buyer is going to have to agree that I get paid X amount of dollars for showing them houses and selling them a house. If that seller doesn't offer any payment to me, that buyer will be on the hook to pay me out of pocket, which is scary to a buyer. It's a
That's
lot of money.
horrifying. That's horrifying because when I was buying a house, the scariest part for me is that I didn't know what the hell closing cost was. And when they told me, "Hey Nate, here's your down payment plus an extra 8 grand for this," I was like, "For what?" And they were like, "Closing costs." I was like, "Okay, well, where do you expect me to get this extra $8,000?" Right? Like, and so it
Mhm.
delayed our process a little bit because I had to come up with $8,000. Luckily, we got it in 2 weeks, but you know, this is so much, and God bless that many pages of rules. It's the
Mhm.
same thing they do in the government, right? Where like they write these bills that are 400 pages long. Nobody's going to read them all, but they throw in these
Mhm.
crazy things. That's exactly what this sounds like.
Yeah, it's a lot. So that's just the tip of the iceberg, that the buyer will now have to sign an agreement with a realtor to get inside the door. They are agreeing essentially that yes, you will get paid if I buy this house. Now, backing up, I want to just put out there, as a buyer, you've got to make sure that you have got a smart and educated realtor, because there are a lot of bad realtors out there. And I tell you, I run into a lot of them because I have mostly listings. And when these realtors come in, most of them don't know jack crap about anything. And it's terrifying to me that they're going to be out there walking around selling houses, So you got to make sure that you've got a smart, educated realtor. Uh, Next, you've also got to make sure that you've got a realtor representing you who knows how to negotiate. Because me and my team, there's 8 of us. And our goal, our objective with this whole thing, we do not ever want our buyers to pay a dime of our commission. We are going to go after the seller and negotiate with the seller to pay our commission. Now, sometimes that is not going to work out. Sometimes it might not happen, but we're going to work as hard as we can, sharpen our pencils, whatever we have to do. We are going to do our very best to make sure that our buyers are not coming out of pocket for that commission. Now, with that being said, if you've got an agent who doesn't know about these changes coming, and there's a lot of them, let me tell you, because I'm putting a seminar on at the end of the month. I have 50 seats available, and I'm going to be putting on a seminar about the NAR changes, and it filled up in 12 hours.
Oh my,
So, yeah. So there's a lot of agents, they don't know what's happening and they're terrified. They're more scared than the buyers out there. But it's a scary time because education is going to be vital. And it's going to make the difference. I feel like a lot of realtors are going to quit the business because they're just not going to be able to pivot. If they don't quit the business, they should, because they're going to be leading their buyers to the slaughter. Because imagine getting to the table, Nate, and then instead of saying, "Hey, you need $8,000," they say, "Oh, by the way, you need $16,000," because the
Right.
buyer's agent's commission is about 2.5 to 3%. So that's more than your closing costs, or about equal to your closing costs. Your closing costs could essentially double if you aren't educated, if your realtor hasn't educated you and told you, and hasn't negotiated on your behalf with the seller to try to get the compensation from the seller's side. There's a lot to it.
Trish, I have a question. So I know you kind of mentioned just a second ago about a potential bad realtor. Can you highlight some of the bad potential like things that you've noticed? Because I think for the audience purposes, this would be a great educational moment for them.
Yeah. So like I said, I have mostly listings. So that gives me the pleasure of dealing with all those buyers agents out there who don't know Shinola from a hole in the ground. For instance, I sell a lot of houses around St. Louis County. You wouldn't believe how many agents write an offer on the house. Oh, we'll take it as is. We aren't going to do inspections, blah, blah, blah. They don't realize that their buyer needs a municipal occupancy inspection to move into that house before they can occupy the house. We get to the, day before closing, and they're like, "Well, what do you mean my buyer can't move in tomorrow? Didn't you get a municipal occupancy inspection?" And is me as a listing agent. And I'm like, you wrote the offer as is. That's on you. So like, you need to know each municipality, every municipality has different laws and rules about occupancy. So they need to know that. Just starting at the top of the contract and moving our way down, they need to educate their buyer on earnest money. What is earnest money? What does it do? How do you get it back if you back out of a contract? What risks are you at with your earnest money of losing it or getting it back? Inspections. If an inspection goes wrong on a house, do you have an agent who knows vendors, an AC contractor or a sewer guy, a plumbing guy that can help you get bids quickly if you find problems during your inspections? Um, Say you get to appraisals and your appraisal comes in short. Does your realtor know how to negotiate an appraisal and send comps to that appraiser? Or if worse comes to worse, do they have a lender that they can introduce you to that could turn this loan around in 7 to 9 days? So many different things. And it all stems from agents who aren't experienced. They only sell one or two houses a year. So as a buyer, what you want is you want to make sure you're dealing with an agent who is, hopefully full time, because if they've got another day job, that means they're not being able to give you their full attention. But you want an agent that's full time, and you want somebody who sells a few houses a year, more than a few, because things are so rapidly changing that if an agent doesn't have the experience on a weekly basis of what's going on, these agents will be left in the dust. And if the average realtor only sells 2 to 3 houses a year, I don't know how you could keep your finger on the pulse of anything, only doing, 2 or 3 houses a deal, deals a year. So that's kind of what you want to look for, just somebody with experience in the area, in the neighborhood you're looking in, because neighborhoods change, rules change from neighborhood to neighborhood.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and I agree with you too. So working with an expert in that industry obviously is, I mean, it's critical to not be taken advantage of, right? I mean, you wouldn't want to have, somebody that's doing 2 or 3 transactions a year because they're in it for that moment, and maybe they don't see another house or help another client for 6 months. Well, how the hell are they supposed to know, right? How are they
Mhm.
supposed to be in tune whenever they're not, like you said, they don't have a pulse on it. Um, so with all that being said, wouldn't this is going to be pretty difficult for buyers, no?
Yeah, I mean, with all of that being said, I think the most important thing that buyers need to know is that you need an agent who's going to go to bat for you and explain the new rules to you so that you know exactly what you're getting into up front, and then negotiate the offer on your behalf. And in our offer, we can ask the seller to pay the commission. We have the right to ask for the commission. But here's the kicker. Another part of the new rules. As a realtor, I am not allowed to lead you. So, say, Nate, you're my buyer. We go to look at a house, and I know that they aren't paying a commission. I know that they're not offering anything towards my buyer's agent commission. I am not allowed to tell you, hey, Nate, you need to write into the offer and ask for the seller to pay my commission because they're not paying anything. I can't tell you that. I don't understand why they would tie my hands like that, but I'm not allowed to tell you what to write into the offer. It has to be your idea. You have to be the one to tell me what you want to include in that offer. That's absolutely ridiculous because as a buyer, especially a first time home buyer, you don't know what to ask for or not to ask for. You don't know what to put into that offer. So there needs to be an educational period, a way for your realtor to convey to you what to put in the offer, but yet I'm not allowed to steer you in that direction. I can steer you, but I can't tell you. I have to use, like, sign language, or you have to be able to read between my lines, Nate, in order for you to know what to put in your contract. But that's frustrating to me as an agent because I would love to just tell you, hey, Nate, look, in special agreements, we need to ask for 2.5% commission to be paid out to me so that you're not on the hook for it. Wouldn't that be beautiful if I could just tell you that? But I cannot. You need to tell me, hey, Trish, on line 238, I need you to write this. I mean, what buyer is going to know to do that? They're not. They're not. It's frustrating, but we're going to have to find workarounds
It's
to
hilarious, but
educate people. Yeah. And that's why this podcast is important, because the buyers out there, now that they hear me saying it, they'll know. But for all the rest of the hundreds of thousands of people going to write offers next month, I don't know what they're going to do. They're going to have to make sure that they're with a good realtor that can lead the way.
it's crazy that this whole bill is supposed to be transparency, but isn't that a prime example of it being the opposite? I
That
mean,
it's not, yeah. And so another part of this. So currently, the MLS, I can go in the MLS, and when I look at houses for you, I can see, okay, this one pays out 2%, this one's paying out 3%. I know what the commission, I know what I'm going to make when we close on that deal. To me, that is transparent. It's up front. When I print a flyer out and I hand it to you, you can see, oh, Trish is going to make this much money when we close the deal. To me, that's transparent. Starting July 1st, all of that will be gone out of the MLS. It will be against the law for a seller to advertise on the MLS how much commission they're willing to pay out. To me, that's the opposite of transparency. Now I can call the agent and ask them, but what a ridiculous way to have to do business. Like if I'm going to show Nate 10 houses on Saturday, I got to call 10 agents and ask each of them, hey, are you paying out commission? And then I have to go back to Nate and be like, look, out of the 10 houses, here's what A, B, and C are all doing. And then Nate has the choice to be like, oh, 3 of them aren't paying any commission. All right, let's take those off the list. I can't afford to pay you. I mean, that's a ridiculous way to do business, but that is literally what has to be done because we're not allowed as a listing agent. We are not allowed to advertise it on Zillow. We can't advertise it. We can advertise it like on our sign in the front yard. We could put it, or I could put it on a little sign in the house, but I can't advertise it on Zillow
It'd
or
be
on the
kind of
MLS.
an awkward sign. Hey, we won't pay for your stuff, or hey, we will, or we'll pay you this amount.
Yeah, well, I've already made my sign toppers. Like I said, I do mostly listings. So I've already made my sign toppers that are going to go on top of my for sale signs. And it simply says paying buyer's agents. That's all it
Okay.
says. And that way a buyer's agent can show my house and rest at ease and know, oh, good, we're going to get paid on this one.
Yeah.
Because I can't advertise it on the MLS. So it's all going to be very mysterious. And I also feel like it has a chance to be very discriminatory in the fact that as listing agents, we could always move the goalposts. Like if all of a sudden we don't want to pay commission, well, hey, we don't have to pay commission if we don't want to. It's kind of silly. It's the opposite of transparency in my book. um but my team and myself, I'm working really hard to stay on top of all these new rules. I'm trying really hard to educate my team. And if there are other realtors out there listening, I'm always looking to grow my team because I mean, we've got so many leads. There are so many buyers out there and they all need help. And we've got, there's 8 of us, but we're drowning because it's a busy, busy time of year right now. And I know a lot of other agents are starving out there, but we're busy and I need help. So hey, realtors, if you're listening, call me.
So I said this last night. I think that I might be right. I may be wrong. I mean, you're a seasoned vet, so you might be able to kind of give some more insight on this. But I think this is all due to thinning out the herd, right? That's what they're trying to do. They're making these guidelines and regulations and rules. So people are going to be like, oh, well, why the hell would I become a realtor? This is going to be a nightmare. I can't even get paid. What the hell? Like, they're going to, I think it's to thin out the herd. And it would make sense because, in my opinion, the realtor market is oversaturated in some areas.
Hmm.
However, there's enough food to go around, right? So, like,
Oh yeah.
either you make it or you don't. And, obviously it's like any industry. Not everybody, everybody's going to go get their realtor license. Let's say there's 100 people. Probably 30 of them are going to stick around, right? Longer than 5 years, right? That's the reality. Very high turnover. And that's just about in any job, right? Um,
Yeah.
but now you're just making it more difficult for the good realtors like yourself who do their best job, do this full time. I so this kind of leads me into probably the last little portion of this segment here, and we're already kind of getting close, which is nuts. But where do we go from here? And what's your opinion on a solution and policy prescription to fix this or mitigate it, I should say?
Yeah. Yeah. I think, education is always key. Educate yourself and know exactly what you're getting into. But as you're getting ready to buy a house, I mean, you want to make sure that you are, again, interview a few realtors, see who you get a good feel from, see who's answering their phone, see who has good communication, ask their history, their experience. You really want to just make sure that you've got the best representation possible. Now, with that being said, you also have to make sure that you're saving up some money that you've got for your down payment, your closing cost. Be prepared to maybe have to pay a portion of your realtor's commission because, just like hiring an accountant or just like hiring a lawyer, you pay for services. So just be expecting that that might become the new normal. My hope is that we can continue to tap into the sellers to pay, at least a portion of buyers agents commission to help with that. But yeah, buyers need to be educated. You need to make sure that you're working with an educated realtor who knows the market and just be ready to get creative. I pride myself on creativity and thinking outside the box. And that's exactly what I intend to do from here. as a buyer's agent, I'm trying because I do a lot of buy side also, but as a buyer's agent, I know a lot of buyer's agents are freaking out and they're like, I need to just quit the industry. You're right. This is definitely going to thin the herd for sure. Because if a realtor doesn't know their value, they're not going to know how to portray that to their buyers. But like I've been telling my team, look, you know what? This is our opportunity to give ourselves a raise. They want to put us out of business. Well, let's make some lemonade out of these lemons, instead of looking at it as, oh, we aren't going to get paid. You know what? Let's go after those sellers for a higher rate of commission now and make more money. Which it might not happen. It could be up high in the sky, but that's my goal is to try to work smarter, not harder. And I'm trying to teach everybody on my team to have the confidence to do that. And if we are confident, we're going to be able to do better for our buyers, do better for our sellers. And that's what it's going to take. A good agent, even if you pay your agent $5,000, they should make you that $5,000 back. They're going to save you $5,000 on negotiations. They're going to pay for themselves through their inspections or your appraisals. So you've got to look at it as an investment, not a burden, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense.
No, that does make sense. And
Yeah, it does.
I think you're right in that regard. I mean, but it only can help, right? So like the people that are going to fizzle out, obviously they're going to fizzle out anyway. So what that's going to do is just obviously make the realtor that stay, like yourself, more qualified, more professional, have more tools in their tool belt, right? Like you said, make lemonade out of lemons, right? Um, that's really probably what's going to be happening. The stronger are going to survive here.
Just like COVID. COVID thinned out the herds too, I mean, realtors on average, I think most realtors, I forget what the percentage is, but like 70% of realtors quit after the first 2 years. Because it takes 2 years on average for them to sell their first deal. That's a terrible percentage rate. So, it's a tough field to be in because we all work on spec. We don't get a salary. We only get paid if we close on a house with somebody. And now who knows, you've got to negotiate even that at this point as a buyer's agent. So that's what I'm here for with my team to lift them up. And that's why I'm putting the seminar on at the end of the month because, I am rooting for our industry and I want to lift everybody up. I feel like everybody's struggling out there and I want to lift the whole industry up, keep our salaries at a fair, livable wage, and that all comes through just educating and promoting the truth and getting rid of that false information that you keep seeing on the news.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, that's just the reality of it. Unfortunately, I mean, I wish that this wasn't the case, but man, with the NAR stuff is just this whole deal is just very frustrating and confusing. And I'm not even in the real estate world as far as an agent goes, but I can only imagine how scary that is to come down the line. But so your seminar, you said it's booked up though, right?
It is booked up and it is just for realtors. But if somebody wanted to squeeze in, if they wanted to message me, I saved a couple of tickets back for myself. I could get somebody in the door. If there's realtors out there listening, it's going to be at Lodge de Pere on the 26th at 11:30 a.m. But we'll probably do another one because it did book up so fast. But I will say that I might even do something for buyers out there because there's a lot of buyers with a lot of questions, especially first time home buyers. But yeah, there's a lot out there, a lot of misinformation out there, and we just need to make sure the truth prevails and people know what they're getting into when it comes time to buy a house.
What's the likelihood of you recording that?
We're
You
gonna
know,
try. I need to find a cameraman.
Well,
A
because I
good
would I would
cameraman,
definitely
Nate?
recommend it. No, I do not, unfortunately. I mean, but nowadays, technology is so simple. You could just have somebody with, like an well, if they're close to you, right? They could do an iPhone and you could just wear a mic and connect it to it, right? It'd be pretty simple.
Yeah,
But I think you recording that would
it
be
was, yeah,
fantastic. Obviously, yeah, I mean, I would post it on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, everything you can think of, so people can
yeah,
refer back to it.
yeah.
If it's already sold out, I mean, there's definitely a reason why people need to know about this, right? So,
Mhm.
um, I would 10 out of 10. If you record it, we'll post it on our page for sure
All
because it, it
right.
just it
Yeah.
just doubles down on this because we're hitting the iceberg surface here, but you're going to go into a deep dive. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
and it's gonna be like I said, it's gonna be geared for realtors, but everything as we talk, go, flow into buyers and sellers, fields. So yeah, everything that we know needs to get out there for the general population, because there's just, like I said, there's been a lot of misinformation out there. Sellers, for whatever reason, think that they no longer legally can pay agents commissions, or they think they don't have to. It's just bad strategy. We'll talk about that. I think, you and I should get together again, and we should talk about what makes a good listing strategy, because those home sellers that are out there, they're going to be shooting themselves in the foot if they're not paying commission, because it limits their buyer pool, and that's a whole nother topic. But yeah.
So you're telling me that you give me permission to have a episode or segment 3 of this?
Segment 3, so we can talk to sellers, because that's the trickle down the trickle down economics. The listings and the sellers, that's where all the education needs to start, because they need to see the value of investing into that process, so that way they open up and broaden their buyer pool. But again, a whole nother topic there.
Yeah, so that will actually lead us to the wrap up portion of this. So we've just confirmed it, guys. You already heard it from the boss herself. Segment 3 going to be shot sometime soon. We're going to space these out a little bit, obviously, to keep people engaged so people have time to watch it. However, we're going to try to get all these done before July 1st, because that's whenever this takes place. So
Yeah, it's D-Day.
yep, that's right. It's literally, Judgment Day at that point. And so I will tell you this: if you guys have made it this far, I cannot stress this enough. If this is something that affects your livelihood, or you're curious about it, you're becoming a homeowner, or you're trying to sell your home, any portion of real estate, follow Trish's page, get on there, check out the Wolf Pack. God bless when she has that seminar. Please, if she's recorded, watches it. I mean, just please do that, because this is literally one of the most important things in the real estate world that has happened, at least in our lifetime. So let's do this.
Sure.
Let's wrap this up here, get everything squared away. And then obviously, guys, join us back for segment 3, where we talk into listing strategies to help mitigate some of this and do some damage control. Can't stress it enough, guys. I know I'm going to repeat myself here, but I cannot stress it enough. Follow Trish on all of her stuff. Check it out. It's nothing but a wealth of knowledge and information. It cannot hurt whatsoever. And if you're lucky enough to be on the page with us, like, subscribe, share it. If you have any questions for us, let us know. If we can get you connected with Trish, let us know. But yeah, just look forward to segment 3, guys. Thank you so
Yep,
much.
you can find me at Trish Wolf Realtor on all the socials.
And we'll put the links in the bio post as well, just in
Great,
case anybody,
thanks.
couldn't find that out for some reason.
All right, thanks, you guys.
Yeah, thank you as well. Looking forward to segment 3.
Remember,
All
everyone,
right,
just be a little better.
bye-bye.
Matt, say it again.
I said, if y'all can't do anything, just be a little bit better. Thanks,
Ooh,
y'all.
He says it better than I do. I love it. All right.